to the Good Warfare Communications Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Wes Mullins, and this is Everyday Apologetics. This is a no logical fallacy zone. This is a check your presuppositions and self-refuting statements at the door zone. So open your mind and open your hearts, and let us reason together.
Well, it is 2:10 in the morning. I am up and wide awake. Just thought I'd bring a little word your way. Thank you, ladies. Anyway, I'm sitting here and just feeling a bit overwhelmed by the political process in this country. I'm sure that everyone else feels the same way. We've had about 4,000 debates, which is a good thing for the Republican side. For those of you that didn't know, I am a constitutionalist who has a conservative bent with a little bit of libertarian thrown in there. I'm also a Christian. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I sketch occasionally here and there. I'm a photographer, actually a professional photographer. And I love to read. I'm just throwing all those things out there, labeling myself, so anybody listening knows exactly who I am. You see, I don't want to be afraid. I found that, and what I'm saying, I don't want to be afraid of saying who I am and have someone find out who I am. Going through the political process and watching these candidates do that, there are so many candidates on both sides who are afraid to say who they are and what they are because of the implications it will have to their political power and to their political aspirations. But don't be fooled. This happens in friendships. This happens in churches. This happens everywhere. We're afraid people are going to find out that we're frauds. And we're all frauds. We're all frauds. We all present ourselves as something we're not. Sometimes we do this in a good way. And what I mean is, we all present this person who we want to be. We all have this idea of who we are. And we all have this idea of who we want others to see us as we are. So we have two natures going at the same time. We have this who I want to be and who I think I am, who I feel that I am, and yet the person the world sees. Now, when the politicians enter that world, there are lots of people who do things that are unsavory, and they don't want people to find out because it will destroy the image they're trying to create. Others don't care as much. Some are not bright enough to understand how to hide their image. And then some will file a lawsuit anytime somebody tries to destroy the perception they're giving. I digress. Donald Trump. Anyway, as I'm going through the political process and I'm dissecting and I'm analyzing and I'm trying to see through what's being said into what's actually being said. And it gets overwhelming because there's so much information. It's impossible. It's impossible to keep up with all the information. It's impossible to keep up with all the stories. It's impossible to absorb all of the information that's out there. This is information overload. This is saturation of information. And it's why our entire world, has a fractured logic system and a compartmentalization of information because we get it in 2-minute sound bites. So we take our opinions and we wrap them up in that 2-minute segment. and then we have no roots. We have no roots in it. So, as I'm thinking tonight, up all night, just got in a mood where I was like, I need to pray. I need to pray. And so, what I do sometimes at night is I clean house. Yeah, I'm like, dishes haven't been done yet. Food is not put away. I'm going to clean house. And so I get in that mood. And what I'm really doing is I'm giving my body something to do so that I can free my mind up to actually begin engaging God. And I begin to pray and just say, God, I don't know. I mean, the guy that I like, Ted Cruz, is out there, and he's got some negative ads running, and he's got some things he's doing. I'm going, I don't know. I mean, I don't like some of this stuff. People are asking questions about his policies and things, and I don't have all the answers. And then you start waning, and then you look around and you go, well, who else is there? And then you start looking at other candidates, and you're like, well, they have the same problems. And so it becomes very frustrating. And I just begin to pray to God. There are a lot of people who have not voted in many, many years. The Christians from last year, I believe the numbers are 54 million stayed home from voting. And they do that because they say, there's no reason for me. God's going to let this happen no matter what. God's going to let this happen. If God wants America to succeed, it'll succeed. If he wants it to fail, it'll fail. Now, I understand what they're saying. I understand that how they're presenting that. I completely understand that. But you have to also take in consideration the prayers of David. And what am I talking about here with the prayers of David? And if it sounds like I'm whispering, I do apologize. I will try to get my voice out there a little, project a little more and get a little louder. The entire family is asleep right now, and I'm in the studio, and feeling a little tired myself. It's 2:19 in the morning, so I'm feeling a little tired. But I just had some thoughts on my mind that I wanted to get out. I wanted to get recorded and get out because I think that they're important. This country is built on the people. And we have rights and we have things that founders cut out for us. And I've talked about that in the last one. I talked about that in Revolutionary Part 1. But what I'm talking about today is the prayer of David. When David had the affair with Bathsheba, and God said, because you had this affair and because you had her husband killed, so you could take her and you committed adultery, there was lust involved in all this, and you were murderous, and you're a man after my own heart. I mean, think about that. Think about that when you look at political candidates as well. I mean, that was God's choice, and he was a lying, manipulative murderer. I'm not saying those are the qualifications you need to look at in a candidate, but I'm just saying those were some of the things he did. Now, those were not part of his heart, because what did he do immediately? He repented, and he changed. So, if they're not changing and repenting, then we have a different issue. And I'm just going to throw this out there. There is no way any person can claim to be a Christian and have never repented before God. It's impossible. It's theologically impossible. And you cannot claim that, because you have to repent in order to be a follower of Christ. That's the first step. You don't take that first step, you can't take the other steps. Just saying. But David, when God said, I'm going to take the first son, what did David do? He went in sackcloth and ashes, and he prayed and he fasted for a very long time. And his servant said, why are you doing this? God's already said he's going to take the son. He said, yeah, but while the son yet lives, while he's still alive, there's a chance. There's a chance God will be merciful and not do that. And so when it comes to the United States of America, when it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to the nation that I know and love, and a lot of the millennials have not known the nation that I have loved. And I have not known the nation that the people before, the generation before me have loved. The America we have now was not the America that I grew up with. It was not the America that I grew up with. And so I caught myself whispering again. So I look at this and I said, I have to do everything in my power as a citizen of this country. I do everything in my power to speak out and to point out fallacies and to point out things when I see them going wrong, and to point out to Christians and to point to others and say, hey, listen, no, this, no, look over here, this. And so I know everybody's doing that. And that's the thing. There's a saturation of information, and I could be like, I'm going to get lost in the sea of voices. But what I know is that when you speak with truth and you speak with clarity, your voice will be heard. So I'm saying I'm going to fight for this country, because if I allow this country to devolve into something that it's not, to completely eradicate the Constitution, and that seems extreme, but we're halfway there, and I do nothing but say, well, it was God's will. There is such thing as a self-imposed will of God, which seems like an oxymoron. And then there's a plan God has for you. See, God has this plan for you. It's not a God-shaped hole in your heart, but he has a plan. He has a destiny for you. He puts things in your heart and in your mind, and he can't wait for you to ask him for those things. Now, what we can do, and what God will sometimes do, is God has spoken to me before and said, oh yeah, God has spoken to me. For some of you, it's going to be quite a shock. Wait, God doesn't speak to anybody. He has his word. And there are a lot of people who are cessationists and believe that the gifts don't work and those sort of things. I am not. I have been a part of that. God has spoken to me. I have spoken things to people that I've just met. I've just met them on the street. First time ever meeting them. And God gave me words for them. Specific, very, very specific words. And if those doubters out there would like some examples, I met a person at a big conference. First time I met him, I looked at him and said, hey, this is going to sound weird, man. I said, but every time I look at you, I can only hear one word. I look at you and the word keeps banging in my head. Liver. Are you okay? Is there something wrong with your liver? Now, what's funny is this guy was like, oh, my liver's fine. No, I'm fine. But like an hour later, he came back. He's like, hey, man, I'm actually going in for liver test on Monday. Could you pray for me? So now that's just one example. There are many more examples. So anyway, but I feel like God, I lost my train of thought there where I was going with the God speaking directly to me. But I need to be able to fight for what I think is true and is right. And if I don't do everything in my power, then I've let it go down without a fight. I can't claim, when this persecution comes, I can't claim to be a martyr because it's self-inflicted. There we go. The self-imposed will of God. There have been times, to get back to that, there have been times in my life when God has actually said to me, hey, Wes, what do you want? Ask me. Ask me for anything. Ask me. And what was weird was I didn't know what to ask for, because in my heart I knew he would give it to me. And it's like I didn't trust myself to ask for something. It's like, what do I ask for? You know, when a king looks at the subject and says, ask me for anything in the kingdom, and it's yours, you're like, I don't know.